Well, good morning. My name's Martin. Welcome back to another week on my allotment. And for those of you that follow me, you'll know I've been away for a week in Cornwall. We had a fantastic time. We always do. It's just so relaxing, and it's like being retired. Yeah, we had a wonderful time. We drove back yesterday, and I spent the sort of last part of the afternoon trying to tidy up the garden. We've got new next door neighbours, which is quite interesting. A young couple with 2 kids. They seem very nice. It looks like a good start. Anyway, back here on the plot, I was so excited to drive out here this morning. It's 5:35. I've been here 25 minutes. That's the beauty of my life. We had a week away and we thoroughly enjoyed it. We love each other's company, which is a real relief after 37 years. And yet I'm excited to get back because I get to come up the allotment for the day. I think the forecast for today is pretty poor. And that brings me on to the weather. Is it not, in the UK, the most unique year? This is without doubt. I mean, I've racked my mind, and in my memory, this is the coldest, wettest May we've ever had. Certainly that I can remember. And the weather forecast for Cornwall, where we were staying, was absolutely dire. But thankfully, the weather forecast on the BBC is as reliable and trustworthy as their news. Blimmin' awful. And actually, yes, it was wet, but it was wet on certain days for a certain few hours, and it was intense, but then it broke, and we managed to we did have some wet days, but we had some lovely days. And the only word I can use, as you know, when you get back to your allotment after a week, you notice big changes. When you're here every day or every other day, the changes are subtle and they're steady, but when you've been away for a week, it's like somebody's thrown a growth grenade on the plot. But the one word I would use to describe what I found when I got here, you know, bearing in mind, what is it, the 16th, 17th of May? I forget, I really don't know. But it's coming towards the end of May, and the one word I'd use to describe what I found on the plot is... I found this sign lying on the ground outside our campsite. So it's now on my allotment, and the Hanley canal is running. The little water trap I've got down the bottom is full. Actually, there's a dead mouse in it, but it's astonishing. I mean, the grass is growing like crazy. There's a dividing line here on what's succeeded and what's thriving and what isn't. Anything that is slightly hardy, so the peas, the broad beans. Yeah, that's about it. The peas and the broad beans are doing very well. The beetroot's fine, that's growing, but a lot of stuff isn't. You know, somebody said, one of my comments was, "You're brave putting your courgettes out." They are not doing well. The runner beans have been eaten by the slugs. Of course, all this rain we've had, all my water butts are full, and actually they're overflowing. So we've had a lot of rain, and of course the rain brings out the slugs, and they've eaten an awful lot of stuff because I haven't been here to keep an eye on it. John, my friend, has very kindly kept an eye on everything. I asked him to water things. The watering cans are still full, which tells you he hasn't had to water anything. Anyway, I'm thrilled to be back up here. It's lovely to have you along. And I'm going to start this by showing you a few minutes clip of a little bit of what we got up to down in Cornwall. Surf's up.
That's a leo, is it? It's a rhododendron. Just perfumed. Honestly, it's wet.
It's the most stunning colour I've ever seen.
Certainly unusual. There's a load of bees coming in.
Different day, same weather, back on the coastal path, which goes up there somewhere.
This is what the birthday wanted to do today.
Welcome to the lost gardens of Helligan on an unseasonably nice day. Yeah,
The apple's like this.
yeah. That apple arch is a work of art. This is Allotmentier's dream. There's no doubt about it, the Cornish can make a style. Perfect spot for lunch. kestrel. And round the headland, I'm back into Haven, where we're parked. And there's a cafe on the beach. Perfect. The Mermaid Cafe is open. They've even got some allotments here, next to where our car is parked. Haven, beautiful little village with its own stunning beach. I've talked before about that feeling you get, well, the feeling I get when I've been away for a week, and we only ever go away for a week. To go away for any longer than that in the growing season when you've got an allotment is a little foolhardy, I think. Well, if you want to grow crops. But yeah, that feeling I get when I come back, and I've walked around the plot this morning, of being overwhelmed by what needs doing. The simple job of where little tufts of grass are starting to come up at the edge of the borders, and you know, a lot of the beds are full of weeds, and yeah, you look around and think, oh, that needs doing and that needs doing, and I want to collect all the nettles that are growing to make nettle tea, fertilizer. And you just have to take, and the grass all needs cutting. The grass down the bottom is getting away. But you just have to take a breath. I've put the fire on. That's astonishing to me. It's, you know, it's nearly June. I've got this top back on. I thought this was put away for the season. Yeah, it's nearly June. The fire's on to brew the kettle and to keep the shed warm. But yeah, take a breath, think about it, and just start one job at a time. You know, I've got as long as I want up here today, and yeah, you can't do it all in a day, but you can have a certain chunk of it done. So I'm going to make a start, and I'm going to start by fishing out that unfortunate dead mouse in my water catchment trough, and then I'm going to add the water that's collecting in the canal into the barrels at the bottom. The barrels at the bottom have no roof and gutter system, obviously, they just sat there, so they won't have filled, but there's enough water collected in buckets around here to at least fill one of the blue barrels, and I'm going to do that now. I'm on the way down. I've only got about 10 feet. I thought I should start by saying I hope I didn't upset any sensitivities or professional pride in any RAF personnel that watch this. I am aware, you know, my daughter and her fiance Carl are both serving in the RAF, so my little ditties about my experiences with the RAF, well, they haven't mentioned them. Maybe they're not talking to me. And I'm aware that one of my customers, I think he's her nephew, Sergeant Jonathan Harris of the RAF, he's taken to watching, because I've given him a certain amount of stick via Christine, my customer. And so he, I guess out of curiosity, he's watched some of these, and I think he watches them now. How long that lasts, I don't know. So, Jonathan, I apologise if I caused any offence. I think I apologise. They're just stories, and I know you've got a sense of humour. Welcome to my channel. That's all the stories I've got about the RAF. If I had to repeat any more, I'd have to see a therapist, and that's never going to happen. So welcome to you. Well, I can confidently tell you without fear of contradiction that the canal has never been running before, other than in the winter. So this is a first. But it does give me an opportunity. Actually, I think it's sort of, the level is such now that this won't fill up. But it does give me the opportunity to use some water and fill one of the barrels at least. Well, the forecast for the day is pretty grim. So before it sets in with rain and showers, and the sun is rising and it's quite a nice morning, albeit very damp. I thought I'd do a little quick tour of the plot, let you see how I found it after a week away. And the first thing I wanted to mention was this comfrey that I put in the other day from one of the abandoned plots. Or it's not abandoned, it's not letted out. And they drooped out. I gave them a good drink of water and they drooped over, but hey presto, they're up and they're recovered after all this rain. And these larger onions here I've mentioned before were put in last autumn, and they really are swelling up nicely. This rain will really have done them the world of good. And you can see over around the blackberry bushes there the nettles and comfrey that are starting to swamp them. And I'm not sure if I'll get round to it today, but one of my jobs this week will be to pull up all my nettles for sure, and start making the nettle tea. So they will all come out, and the blackberries will look better for it. These onions were sown this spring, and you can see there's a weed issue. Well, that's to be expected. But I'm very pleased with the progress of these tubs full of parsnips. And the one at the very end there, the chitted parsnips were put in just before we went away. And then slowly, you can see, I've had to net them because of the local cats. Because they're all done successionally, you can see the seedlings, the parsnip seedlings. And in this one, they really are coming on at a pace. Very happy. And this was the first one that was sown. And again, there's a few weeds need pulling out, but that's not a problem. A couple haven't come up, which hence the circular gaps. But, you know, that's seedlings for you. That blackberry there is coming on nicely. Just filling that tub. And then the josterberry and the blackberry at the end, looking very, very healthy. And then to the main plot. Well, they're my Brussels sprouts and they're looking good. Obviously the slugs haven't quite found them yet. And these are the dwarf French beans, which I'm going to say haven't moved in the week I've been away, but you know, they are warmth loving plants and they really aren't enjoying it at the moment. So be it. Something that is enjoying it is that row of peas. They look fantastic. Pea alderman really is coming on at a pace. These are empty beds waiting for pumpkins and squashes. And again, you can see the weeds developing, but that's just a hoe away. Brassicas, again, need to remove the net and get the hoe in. Leeks are developing, slowly but surely they're developing. There's a few gaps and I'm going to plug those with new plants today. More onions. These sumps that I've been sitting the potatoes in, these are all main crop potatoes. I've just taken them out, spilled the water out, because they've been sat in that water for maybe a week or two now, and I'm worried that they'll start to rot. So I've spilled all the water out. I'll leave the trays to one side and leave them for a week or two just on their own to dry out a little bit. Never thought I'd say that. More brassicas. I think they're red and green cabbages. The sweet peas are like in this weather. They've moved on considerably since I was away, and the beetroots have really taken hold. Some of them have been nibbled off by slugs, but the vast majority are looking good. That TP or tripod over there has got runner beans on, and they've taken a hit from the slugs, so I shall have to develop more. But I'm going much later this year with my runner beans. Last year we were eating them in the summer and freezing them, and that's no good. It's an autumn thing for us. These broad beans look good. They're coming on. And the sort of the autumn sown aquadolce are really looking good. And if I bring you down, I don't want to tempt fate, but they're looking good. And no sign of black fly yet. Apple tree looks good. And then to my subscriber that said you're brave putting your courgettes out. You were absolutely right. Brave and foolhardy is probably the phrase. They are not looking good. However, I've brought more spares. I've got 5 or 6 spares. I only want 2 plants. I'm going to put them in the cold frames and let them develop over the next week, harden them off, and then hopefully in a week or 2 the weather might warm up, and then we can put some fresh ones in if these really do keel over. The strawberries are looking good. Some of the plants haven't developed yet, but most of these plants were new plants from runners I grew last season, so I'm not too worried if nothing happens this year, although Cheryl might have something to say about that. The garlic bed is looking okay, and then the gooseberries beyond it. The blueberries, had a sterling crop off those last year. Let's hope that's repeated. And then the 2 new blueberry bushes are developing well, as are my little carrots in that tub. And to this end now, all these seedlings and spare plants, they all look good except the dwarf French beans again, but you know. And my cascade system, it got as far as here. This is filling. There's a brick on that wire to hold that spout in place, and that brick was exposed. Well, it was well exposed, but look out where the water's at now. So very happy. So these 2 are empty. I've used them, but we've got more rain to come this week, so maybe they'll be full again. And you know, there's nothing here needs watering. So let's have a little look round the back. Actually, just starting by the pond. More wood, lots of pallet wood ready for next season, although if it carries on with the weather as it is at the moment, they'll be used before then. The pond is looking wonderful, full of large tadpoles now, and the marsh marigolds are really filling the space. Yeah, it's a picture. Now, moving around the back, I'm very disappointed and concerned by these 2 gutters of peas. These were sown 3 or 4 days before we went away. There's an issue with this seedling compost that I've bought. I don't think it's up to it. I think it's useless. I will mention the name when I get home and find it. But these 2 sown in general purpose compost are wonderful, and I think I'll may get the time to put them in today. And then around the back, the storage area is okay. I need another container. I don't like keeping the bottles like this. It's untidy and ragged. And these raspberry canes are being swamped by the docks and the daffodils, but I've got to leave the daffs another week or 2 before I cut them all down to make sure they flower next year. So that's a job in waiting. And then the last but not least, the tubs of carrots. And they're another success story. Very happy to report. These 2 were sown first, and then these were sown a little while later, and not sure the camera will pick it up, but there are carrot seedlings aplenty. So everything's looking good. I'm very happy with the state of play. And more importantly, that kettle could be close to boiling by now. So I'm going to take myself inside and have the first brew of the day. As I suspected, perfect. Well, this is another little job. It comes down again to my sort of OCD of keeping things neat and tidy, and I'm being flippant there. I don't have an OCD. I don't think so. But you can tell I like a neat, tidy plot. And this was in a skip up at the garden centre, this sort of basket affair, and I've just drilled 4 holes in the top which will probably help the gate rot quicker, I know, but and I've put some of my marigolds in it, and I'm hoping that in the summer this will form quite a pretty little thing. But yeah, there's no reason, you know, I look at some of the other plots, especially the ones, are you allowed to say this anymore? The ones that are run by the ladies. And they always have an eye for including a little bit of beauty in the plot as well as practicality. You know, us blokes, there's no doubt, and I know I've talked about this before, but if you've got an allotment, you might recognise this, I don't know. And there are exceptions, of course, but it tends to be that you could walk around this site and you can tell the plots that are run by men and the plots that are run by women. We are different, and I don't care what society says, that is the fact. Nature designed us differently, we think differently, we're built differently, we react differently. YouTube might deplatform me for saying that, but it's a fact, and anyone who denies that is blind. And you know, I'm not trying to make a serious social point, I'm just commenting that plots are different. And I go, especially Bridget's and the ladies at the end, they just have an eye for including flowers, and of course there's a practical side to that. You know, flowers and the scents confuse the predators and, you know, help mask the vegetables. So when you go to Bridget's plot, hers are a mix. There aren't beds of vegetables and beds of flowers like I've got. They're intertwined, and it looks nice, it's more interesting, and it's more practical. So this is my effort. Anyway, I can't stand here all day drinking tea and coffee, you know. There's work to be done. I've got some perpetual spinach I've sown there, and I'm going to put that in one of my raised beds when I can get some space. Some daffodils to stick in the ground up here from one of our pots at home that we don't want. And there's my spare courgettes, which are going in a cold frame. But I just wanted to mention, you may have seen it on the plot tour, but I didn't mention it specifically. I'm rather pleased with these wooden walkways that I've put on the strawberry bed. That harks back to what I was just saying about keeping things neat and tidy. My passion and my obsession with neat and tidy. And of course Cheryl at home would say that she doesn't recognise that. But I do like things to be just so, and all they are is, I've not made those, they're just bits of pallets that I've cut and left constructed, and I think they make quite a difference. And I'm hoping when the strawberries finally fruit that will make it easier to pick. Obviously these strawberries have got to be netted, but yeah, I just thought I'd show and highlight how neat and tidy they look. And I've done it on various beds. For example, I'm just going to go down now and plant up my pea gutterings, and I've got one through there, and it does make life a lot easier, especially when the soil is as heavy and claggy as it is right now. I can recommend it. These are the little moments that are the highlight of an allotment year, with all the work and, you know, sometimes hard work, but then something comes along. And I was just walking past these gooseberries And you know, I don't know why it's a surprise. They are a fairly early cropper, but they are laden with a beautiful little fruit that I love. What a lovely moment. The plants could not look healthier, and they've got tiny gooseberries forming all over them in abundance. Let's just hope the sawfly keeps away. Yeah, special. This emphasises for me the importance of, once you've put a crop in the ground, of whatever that plant may be, always have a few backups, a few spares. And I've got 2 pots of leek musselburgh, and this bed was filled with musselburgh some time ago. Can't read the label from here. But gaps have appeared, you know, some leeks have been nibbled away or eaten or just didn't take. But I've got lots of spares, and I'm going to fill the gaps now. And I've got so many spares, I'm going to try and find somewhere else on the plot. I'll have a look at my diagram and see where else I can fit them. Well, it's not been the most exciting day. The tool I've had in my hands the most is the hoe. But the ground is absolutely, I'm really surprised just how, I think putting that flooded road sign up is quite appropriate. When I'm walking on the paving slabs through the minor paths, you can hear them squelching. And where I dibbed down and put the holes for the leeks to go in, within a minute of making those holes with the dibber, they were filling with water. They must have had some rain here. I would suggest they probably had more rain here in Chepstow or the area around it than we had down in Cornwall. Anyway, that's no bad thing. My water butts are all full, the ones that are filling off the roofs. I've planted lots more crops, but there's no doubt the more what's the word? You know, the courgettes, the French beans, the more tender crops, that's the word, the more tender crops are suffering, and I've put them in too early, as I was warned in the comments section. But, you know, I never learn. But to my credit, my only defence is I do have lots and lots of spares, so nothing ventured, nothing gained. I've planted courgettes earlier than this in previous years. Last year, for example, when we had a wonderfully dry spring and they romped away. So this is an exceptional May. I suspect that this will turn out to be the coldest, wettest May on record. If it's not, it will be significantly up the list. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you to all those who've subscribed. Give me a thumbs up if you can possibly stretch to that. And I will be around next weekend, Friday or Monday. We have a rather special event going on next weekend. My daughter is going to try on wedding dresses, and she's taking my mother and my wife with her, so I think they'll have a lovely afternoon. They've booked an appointment in one of these wedding dress shops, and I really do hope they have a lovely time and that they can all agree on a dress. If they can't, God help us all. So I shall be spending the day with my dad, which I'm looking forward to. But either side of that, it's a long weekend for me, as if I haven't had enough time off recently. So I shall be up here and I'll post another video. So look after yourself, have a good week. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.